Hi, I'm Eric Blevins with HyprMX. We're here at Pocket Gamer Connects in London, and I'm joined by my buddy Jon from BoomHits.
Hey Eric, great to see you again, man.
You too, man. It's been a little while for everybody.
It has, right?
Yeah.
It's great to be back.
Absolutely. Yeah, are you feeling like first day at the conference? What's the vibe?
Yeah, it's like first day at school. You kind of come in and just everyone's here and it's been so long. It's like first day at school meets like college reunion. It's
a great way to put it. It does feel like that, man. Well, listen, first what I want to get into is I've known you for a little while. I've always been impressed by just your energy, your passion. You're always moving. How'd you get to this point? Like, tell us about your career up until BoomHits.
Oh, well, I mean, like you said, just never stop moving, stop being inquisitive. So yeah, I mean, started off in the classic ad agency side, and then really the early days of mobile when there were like WAP sites with a buddy. We started like an ad network. So this was back when there was just AdMob, right? Had a lot of fun with him, building that, exiting that. Then yeah, on to Ad Colony, and then a couple of great years at Oma Games, sort of back and forth to Paris, and then yeah, kind of present day, the past 2 years, sort of very quietly and now not so quietly, building my latest venture.
Speaking of which, yeah, so can you tell me a little bit about BoomHits and the connection to
Yeah,
BoomBit?
of course.
Like, what's that all about?
So, you know, BoomBit, sort of amazing heritage in sort of free-to-play mobile games, you know, back 10-year-old company now. But publicly listed in Poland, and now this beautiful portfolio of games, right? From like mid-core casual games, you know, Hunt Royale's probably one of those popular ones right now, 10 plus games on Nintendo Switch. And yeah, two just great CEOs, right? Entrepreneurial, one is like a UA wizard, the other one is like a game designer, right? And yeah, a couple of years ago, just really just put our heads together and just had this sort of shared vision for where we thought this gap was for mobile game studios, especially, right? And the kind of things we saw with this, we kind of felt the publishing model was a little bit broken to an extent, in that it was very cookie cutter depending on the genre. But you know, if you're a studio that's had some successful games and you don't want to get acquired yet, but you want some funding to grow your team, but you kind of want a lot of the tools and expertise you might get from a publisher, so like BI, Creative UA, well, where do you go, right? Because usually they're two different companies. You've got a VC and you've got amazing publishers. So that was the kind of vision, right? How do we build out like a VC private equity company meets like a McKinsey, right? So that we could build a crack team depending on the project, and also provide the funding. So
and that's BoomHits. That was
yeah,
like
that's what BoomHits was. So I was thinking, okay, well, you know, I need a really strong partner behind me that knows everything from like a free-to-play game to a mid-core game to console, right? It's not easy to find because generally publishers come in a very specific genre, which is great, right? Because you know, I've worked in different genres, and there are some real nuances to, you know, like hyper-casual games versus like a match 3 game, right? They're not the same.
Right.
Very different, like UA monetization strategies, design strategies. So yeah, the BoomBit is the parent company, and you know, we now have BoomHits, which is the entity that we now take to market and do these really interesting partnerships with. But within the BoomBit group, there's several other joint venture companies that are now up and running. I mean, check the wheel on the website. So yeah, that's the link between BoomBit and BoomHits.
And you touched on an interesting point, which was 2 years ago, if I talked to you, almost everything we talked about was hypercasual. Now that's not really the case. I mean, what's your take on the progression of hypercasual, but then also like where's your brain focusing now in terms of genres?
Well, I mean, I'm still a massive fan of hypercasual, right? And it still gives me great joy to see hypercasual getting bigger and more sophisticated. And you know, yet there are still these people that don't believe in hypercasual, and it's this multi-billion-dollar industry.
It's still here, right? Like there was that 2 years ago, that was a question. Like, do you think hypercasual?
You know, if you think 2 years ago, I mean, look, you know, you've now got a couple of players with billion-dollar plus valuations. You know, Burak and the team at Rolec have done an amazing job. Got acquired by Zynga. You know, the old team, you know, Oma, like Daniel and Olivier, you know, raised 50 million. So yeah, hypercasual is getting bigger, but with that, obviously, like any market, it is maturing. The games are becoming, you know, look at the runners in market now. Some of them are incredibly sophisticated, and even on one level, the number of like progressions and like character switches that you're going to do, right? So yeah, I think hypercasual is just as big as ever, but I definitely think that it's more competitive. One, because of just the volume of, you know, and size of these publishers now and these testing machines that they've built. But of course, like some of the impacts that we've been living through on the monetization side and iOS 14, 14.5, that has changed the dynamics, and obviously the rise of TikTok as well. So yeah, I think what am I seeing right now in hypercasual? I think hypercasual games, you're having to put a bit more complexity in because the CPI, just the market, to get a 20-cent CPI is getting harder and harder. So to compensate for that, you need, you can't just shove in a few more rewarded videos, right? It's, you need the playtime, you need the retention to drive the monetization. So I think I've seen some developers now then, okay, well, hypercasual can be quite grindy, quite tiring, or where do I go? So some of them are trying to make hybrid games. And some of them here are like, oh, hey, blockchain, that looks new. I'll make a blockchain game. Let's make some money from blockchain. So yeah, it's this kind of weird, like revolving door. But yeah, hypercasual is still an awesome space.
And do you think that the pain points kind of that you touched on for developers, are they the same in general when it comes to publishing across genres? And that's what's BoomHits trying to solve? Really?
Yeah, I had a meeting with an investor this morning, and that was talking about investing in one of our blockchain projects, and they made the great point that I completely agree with, is that with blockchain, you still have to design a great game, right? You still need a really nice core loop and progression. It doesn't matter if that's a hyper-casual game, a merge game, match 3 game, a mid-core game, and I think that's the bit that people miss, right? Yeah. You need to design just a really great game for your audience. It doesn't matter whether it's hyper-casual or blockchain. So I think the teams I'm doing really well are teams that have got that proven success. Let's say in hyper-casual, they know how to make an addictive game. They've been through that whole sort of publishing experience, the global launch, learned a lot, can handle SDKs, etc., and use that experience now to push into other genres and bring that data-led approach that you get in hyper-casual testing, but push up into hybrid or merge or idle, right? Because I think a lot of devs that started out in idle and merge, that's not how you used to make an idle or merge game. You get your head down, raise some money, build a game for 6-12 months, do some testing. Whereas I enjoy that sort of, I wouldn't call it disruption, to me it's common sense that hyper-casual has brought to these other game genres. Like, well, yeah, why wouldn't you test and validate early, right? To validate what you're thinking, rather than just assume what you're thinking is right because maybe it worked before. So yeah, I'm also enjoying and seeing that success from hyper-casual developers moving up, right? But yeah. I just wouldn't underestimate how difficult it is to do.
And on the BoomHits side, when you find a game that the developers had that mind, it looks like a fantastic opportunity. Is the model to publish, or is it to acquire, or is it to bring a team in? What does that look like for somebody?
So really our our vision is it's about the studio, right? So the investment deals that we've done are studios that want to self-publish, right? So it should be under their account. When you go to the App Store, you should see their company, right? So really, usually they're not necessarily coming to us with a project. Usually these deals take one of two forms. They've got proven success. They've already published a number of games, and they are really now looking to sort of break free of the classic publishing model, because it's a great model, but it's someone else's model for their business that you fit into, right? They want to build out their own studio with their own games, but their own business model for certain genres, right? So that's really how we've tried to build BoomHits for. So usually it's people that have got that proven track record and come to us and want to break free and have control of everything they're doing, but probably the UA, BI, marketing, creative piece is not something they've had a lot of experience in. So we will do that for them, but they will have, they have full access to, whichever mediation that we use. They can see literally everything. And the goal is to put a business plan in place for the next 2-3 years of transferring that knowledge to them and building up that resource in their team. But of course, your question, if someone comes to us with a killer idle game and just wants a traditional, let's find a nice rev share sort of royalty payment. Of course, we are open to those kind of games. But really, what we're passionate about, what I love doing is I love building games companies, right? And that's what we're doing.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I find it interesting too that you are kind of starting to engage in that blockchain space. So for me, I hear blockchain, crypto, NFT. It's all exciting stuff. It's new tech. I have no idea where it's going to go. And I'm really curious from you, like, out of all of those new technologies, what do you think is going to stick? And what's the potential value for a user, not for necessarily a studio or a publisher or developer, but for like a person who's going to play these games? Am I going to know that there's an impact from like blockchain or NFTs?
Let's unpick that and take it. If we take the business first, and then we'll do the player approach. So from a business perspective, the really simple answer is, in blockchain gaming, you're still trying to do the same thing, right? You still have to make a great game with a solid game economy, great game design, right? You don't just ignore that just because it's blockchain, right? You need to have that. So I think for me, that's the interesting element to start with. Where it's very different to mobile games is because you have this, it's a separate conversation, but basically because the model of how you build a blockchain game is very different to a mobile game, you basically, usually you have this NFT, this lovely piece of art that you then put in a marketplace like OpenSea or like Magic Eden. And you can sell however many of those that you wish, or have a little. But it's basically a combination of that, plus usually there is some sort of token that you can earn and trade within the gameplay. It's the combination of those two initially that give you the money to then go and build this project at some point down the line, right? It's the complete opposite of, certainly free-to-play games where you just jump in, you test, you make the game, you do the UA, off you go. So the business opportunity, I can understand why people are jumping in, because they just see, Justin Bieber buying an ape and they think, oh my, like for $2 million, or, they see some of these, gaming projects that from people that have never made a game in their life, but have still raised 2-3 million. So I understand the financial appeal from it, right? I'm working on 3 projects, and the best advice I could give you is it's still a business, right? If you're doing it to make money, that's the wrong reason, right? Making money is a byproduct of making a really good game, right? You have to write a white paper. What is a white paper? Well, in simplest ways, it's a very big game design document, but in addition to the game design, it now has this tokenomics piece, so all about your token, the utility, how many you're going to issue, etc. So look, I think blockchain is, we're really early. That's the way that we're looking at it. We're super, super early. We're less interested in like lots of PR announcements. We actually just want to build games and learn. Working with all the different blockchains right now, the metaverse, all the different metaverse options that are there. But we've got a 5-year lens. We've got 2 projects that will be out relatively soon, so we want to learn by doing. But our vision is that we just run a gaming company, right? We have mobile games, we have console games, and now there's just a blockchain component to our joint venture companies.
Makes sense, yeah.
And then to your question, well, on a player level, well, actually the experience is pretty crappy right now, right? And that's part of the problem, right? Is the user experience is really awkward, right? Like if you've ever played like Axie Infinity, right? It's not like you just download a mobile app, everything I want is there. If there's some IAPs, it's all in there. It's relatively simple, right? The number of different screens or windows you need to have open to buy coins in one exchange, transfer to another token, and actually I can't buy the NFT on this exchange. On this marketplace. These NFTs are on that marketplace. It's very clunky from a user experience right now. But we believe that fast forward, I don't know, let's say a couple of years, Apple and Google for sure are going to be part of this blockchain system at some point, and they're already making noises in certain countries, right? So our vision is that it will be as simple as it is now for mobile games, right? That if you don't want to do play to earn and you just want to play a mobile game, you can play the mobile game. But if you want the play to earn component, then you've got your mobile game. I log in with MetaMask or Phantom, my wallet, and then there is this on-chain, NFT token system that enables me to enjoy it there as well. So I think that's really how we're setting up our companies for, versus, there's some great ones here. There's just a sea of companies that are just doing these one-off games, with an NFT drop, a token, a governance token, whereas our vision is, just like we've kind of been through it in sort of like free-to-play games and like the rise of hypercasual. It's just this, we make great games here. We've got great game mechanics that work. We've already seen that work now in H5 games. We've had a lot of success now porting them onto console games. We're now going the other way to Steam. We're now porting them to Steam. Well, absolutely. If these are great games here, we just need to tweak the design a little bit, add on some complex tech thinking, but then make it into a blockchain game. So that's really how how really we are approaching blockchain gaming.
Yeah, and from the end user experience, it's like any new sort of sub industry. There's just challenges and barriers that, in all likelihood, will be worked out. Like you said, there's user experience issues. Well, I trust in 3 years that those will be better than they are today. So yeah. Before I let you run to your next meeting, because I know you're a busy man, you outside of all of this stuff you do, you're the busiest person on earth. You also invest. You have your hands in a lot of different things, from mediations to studios to crypto, NFTs. And this all is happening while there's also massive mergers and acquisitions at like the Take-Two, Microsoft levels. Do you take into account all of this industry movement when you're investing? And do you think it's positive, negative, neutral? What's your take on everything?
I mean, look, you as with anyone that invests, whether it's buying real estate, right? You always have to do your own research and have your own thesis and belief. So I don't pay too much attention to the giant acquisitions, like the level that I invest in. Usually you're looking for some sort of like disruption. You're looking for a problem in a genre with a technology that you kind of see as a player, but also someone then that has built and run games companies, and you it's like anything else. You believe in the team. There's some early traction in the product, and then the main reason I do that part is I just really enjoy helping entrepreneurs. So I get a real buzz out of it. So I think if I can see that, if I can see the team, I can see the problem that they're trying to solve, and it's something that I could literally, if I could use it today, even better. But if I can see it coming, then that's really what I'm looking for. But yeah, it's like investing that's where I think it's very similar to publishing, right? It's all about how you manage risk, right, and your appetite for risk, right? And I think everyone has their own way of assessing that.
Nice, very nice. You have somewhat of an appetite. I think it's fair to say. Yeah. Jon, always good to see you, man. Thanks you for joining us. Take care.
Cheers. Thanks a lot.